right. Well, next map's Whirlwind. The players are almost ready. The casters are ready. We're ready. All these Polish people are ready. And we'll flash on over to the casters.
Hey, there's Moonglade.
Oh, hi Moonglade, as we do have Socke there looking poised and confident going into game number 2. Whirlwind is our map. Kaldor, this could be quite explosive.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, on this map, it's so huge. So usually try to go for a very economic build, but at the same time, you can do so many different strategies. You can go for a gamble, you can go for another gateway attack, which was quite successful for Socke in game number 1. But jumping into Whirlwind, we now have our first player to the top left of the map in blue. It is Empire Cass.
Spawning up to the top right-hand corner here as our red Protoss. Give it up for ATN Socke.
Whirlwind being map number 2, Socke ahead with a 1-0 in this series. Cass, he had dominated Lucifron. He has shown very strong play yesterday, but now he is behind and he needs to win the next game if he doesn't want to end up in the same situation that TLO and Nurture were in, where they suddenly need to win 3 games in a row. So a very important match for him in the best of 5. And we're going to find out what exactly his plan is. Will he just stick with his original idea of going straight into additional command centers? Maybe even open up with his command center first, which is not the case here. We have him with the barracks. So economic play, trying to go in the late game, or will we see more of a time effect?
I think that considering the spawning positions here, there's certainly a lot of options for a player like Socke in this position. We were very, very correct in our predictions initially in game number 1, and in game number 2, I'm just going to throw out the fact that, well, maybe we'll see Socke go for some kind of big Colossus timing in mid-game. You get those 3 Colossi out, and then try and pressure his opponent. Because technically speaking, even though this map is very, very big, when you spawn in positions like this, you can sometimes get over to your opponent quite quickly.
Yeah. Especially, oh, there we have the Nexus now for Socke, going for the Nexus first here. Doesn't have a gateway just yet. So with the opening that we see from Socke, he will have the better economy for sure. We already see the scout for him, trying to just go to the bottom right. And with the scouting pattern that he just chose, he will scout his opponent at the last position possible, which is really, really annoying right now for Socke, because this means that the probe most likely will not get into the main base. There should be a Marine just there and trying to deny scouting.
As will Cass, though. He is sending his SCV around in a bit of a precarious direction. Will end up spotting his opponent, potentially last as well, unless he goes cross spawns from the position he's going to be finding himself in. And meanwhile, with that Nexus on the way, as well as the command center, Socke is going to feel pretty darn comfortable throwing down that second gateway because he just has the minerals for it at this point.
Socke is also with the scouting in a very similar position to Cass, who decided to go to the bottom left first and will now therefore find Socke at the 3rd base position. So yes, he's going to find out that there has been a Nexus first, but he doesn't really, he's not in a position that he can do anything about it at this point.
Yeah, not at all, not at all. Neither player here really going to be putting on huge amounts of aggression. We have Cass going up to 2 extra barracks here just to keep himself well bolstered, well defended against any kind of craziness that Socke would actually want to put on. Socke will head over across to the top left-hand corner with that probe, spot his opponent, at least the Marines for now.
The gas is being taken earlier by Cass, yeah? Sorry, by Socke, of course. Cass is now adding his refinery a little bit later. We have him still with a lot of barracks. He's going into 3 barracks in total. And Socke, at this point, is just going for the double Stalker production here. He's chrono boosting them. He can start to go over to his opponent's base and just do some damage, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. He didn't even start his warp gate research just yet. He was just using all the gas that he had at the beginning to go for the double Stalker production. He's moving out now and will try to put some pressure onto Cass. Cass building the 1 bunker at the front, so that's really important for him here. If you skip the bunker and your opponent is starting with early Stalker Raz, maybe has even a Zealot in there, then suddenly you're facing a position where you might just lose way too much with good micro of your opponent.
And one of those aspects of PvT from the side of Socke is trying to spot that natural with a few little pokes up and down. You know, if the bunker's there, it really means that none of those Marines will ever take any damage from that point on. He's easily defended against this, and we'll see Socke just go for the little poke right now.
The second gas also coming up for Cass now. He's not going for any third command center anytime soon. We have him, first of all, with tech. So he's going to head not only into Stim, but we will see a factory fairly soon. He's just building up the gas count. Stim has been started, of course. And currently, Socke just poking a bit, as mentioned, but those two Stalkers, they can't do too much. They saw the bunker, and now Socke at least knows that without a scan, Cass can't do anything in regards to scouting. So drops the robotics. There we go. Yeah, the robotics facility in the main base, which will allow him to get the observer out so that he himself can see what Cass is doing. There could be a third command center on the high ground for all he knows.
I think with the 3 extra gas geysers that Socke took so quickly, I'm anticipating that Robo Bay going down really, really quickly here for Socke. It would be really, really quite nice for him. And in turn, it leads into what we were talking about at the very beginning. It's a brutal thing for a Terran to deal with.
Oh my god, Socke missing the move out of Cass, and he loses both Stalkers. This is horrible for him. Suddenly, he has no vision on the map anymore. He does not know about Cass moves, man. He lost so much. These two units were crucial for him. And this is so unfortunate. 1 second, not paying any attention to the minimap. Cass moving out and bam, in your face.
Yeah, and in turn, Socke there throwing down a few more gateways, realizing he has to build up a little bit of a force here as quickly as he can do, just in case his opponent actually wants to move out with 90 Marines and 1 Marauder actually on the field. 1 Forge is going to go down as well here, but if Cass falls into the trap of actually getting a really aggressive while Socke goes up to those Colossus very quickly, just like he did against Yoda on Ohana actually, then Socke could be in an okay position as long as his force fields are fine.
Cass, once again, no scouting whatsoever with scans, and he's even preparing for DTs. He has 1 missile turret that can, of course, kill an observer, but if there are DTs, then he has something that he can use against them. And just look at what Cass is not doing. Cass is still not building a third base. We have him with Stim starting combat shield. He has a lot of units on the map, 35 army supply against 22. Yes, he's still building SCVs, but he's now getting those medivacs. Finally, the third base, but still, he has a massive army on the map that can move out and do damage.
And you know, I think that Socke here, well, he's got his position to go for his 4th base, but he's actually getting that 1 Colossus and not committing to any thermal lance just yet. He's looking to trick out Cass here with the 7 gateways that he actually has down here. So, I mean, he could still easily go for a little bit of aggression with such a dominating, well, a very, very strong force against what is just Marines at the moment with those 2 medevacs.
Nice vision here by Socke with this observer. A 3rd base being started for the Protoss player from Germany. He's still ahead with the 1-0 going into +1 attack. Range has started. Now he's not going to go into the Storm Tech. He decides to stick it out with those Colossi, going for the 2nd one. And Cass is now moving out. This force, this army that we talked about earlier, it's moving towards Socke now. And is the German Protoss, is he ready?
And he's going to have to be, those force fields are going to have to be pristine. He does poke out forwards here, catching a few of those units, just deterring Cass from actually pushing forwards in its entirety. Cass has to fall back. That Colossus is just too much with those force fields.
Exactly. The Colossus here is, of course, the big factor. He sees it and he moves back right away. He knows that he can't fight against the Colossus and this gateway force that Socke already has to protect it. No Vikings for him. He has to build them first. And in the meantime, Socke, with the 3rd base completing, is going for Twilight Council, +1 attack nearly completed. You want to go into +2 attack, you want to get those additional upgrades. He's going for the double upgrades here with 2 Forges, but Cass at least has the information now. He scouted with a Marine, but he still does not know what's going on in the main base of Socke. Still no energy sacrificed for scan.
Yeah, and I guess this is really the time to deviate for Socke here, because he's now revealed those Colossi. He is still getting that thermal lance. It's still a good upgrade regardless with those Vikings on the way. And 1 probe very, very easily spots these armies.
The big problem is that Socke's army is to the left. He's completely out of position, and the only thing that Cass has to do is move in, target down the Nexus, and get out, hit and run Terran style. And he's doing it. But here comes the army now for Cass. He needs to lift and get away, and he's not doing it. He's losing everything here.
So many units go down. That 1 medevac trying to scramble away with just 4 Marines, but the rest of them do die off. That was a big hit to the army of Cass. And for now, Socke, with that trademark German Protoss harassment, Gush going for Zealots in his opponent's 3rd. He was already there before, trying to hit away at that command center, but getting a few SCVs in turn.
Yeah, we Germans are quite annoying. I completely agree. Those Zealots to the left side, they are definitely a pain in the butt. But I can't believe that Kaz lost all these units. I mean, the guy darts in, bam, Nexus is down, he has those 2 medivacs, he can just go to the right, hug the right side of the map and get out of there. There is no blink down, no air units, there are only a few stalkers, but he loses everything. And this opens up this aggression for Socke. He's moving in, he knows that there are a lot of units that Kaz doesn't have, but Kaz has this flank.
Oh, he does, and he catches one of the Colossus of the Moon. Marauders actually catching all of them as well. He didn't have that many Vikings, but he made up for it in the firepower of the bio, chasing Socke away. He just did not have a clue about the great spread of Kaz's force.
Socke missed the force fields. He was trying to force field those units away, but then there was a gap and Kaz used it. Now he's chasing down this army. Socke is still going strong though, but Kaz once again in the supply lead. He has more army supply, and those Marauders, they are beefy, they have armor, they have stim, they have everything they need to hunt those stalkers down, to take them down. Socke needs a lot more. Trying to build the third up again, but Kaz is still mining from 3 bases. He's so far ahead in his income.
Yeah. And he's keeping an eye on his opponent's third base constantly with a Marine, with a small medevac that was actually flying across as well. He knows all of the units reinforcing for his opponent because there's actually a factory spotting them reinforcing. He's going to push down once again here. Not too bad force fields, but those SCVs are going to be sacrificed in turn, shielding a lot of that bio, even landing the Vikings here. He knows all he has to do is push this back because he has no third just yet.
So many Marauders. What a back and forth game. Very small individual mistakes by the players, opening up comeback opportunities. Socke taking down the entire force to the right after Kaz destroyed the third, deciding to go for it with the army that he has. Kaz's attack triggered his move out, but then suddenly this just flanked from Kaz, the force field's not in position, and Socke loses every single of his Colossi. The Stalkers just don't stand a chance alone against the Marauders, and with +2 attack, +1 armor, Kaz now taking a major lead in this game with nearly doubling the supply of the German.
You're right, there's just nothing left here for Socke. He has 3 Stalkers, 5 Zealots, and 2 Sentries to try and hold off against a potential huge torrent of units that Kaz can easily get out here and throw them across the middle of the map. Kaz also taking a 4th, spotting that his opponent is trying to take a 3rd in desperation to another location because he was always been stopped at the other spot.
Kaz knows exactly how far ahead he is now. He has just to run with his advantage and he's going to be fine. If he doesn't make any major mistakes, Socke should not be able to claim victory here. But Socke is of course not giving up. He still has a fighting chance. If he is able to get into a good position, if Kaz makes a slight mistake here that Socke can capitalize on, then there is still an opportunity for the Protoss to take this win. This drop in the main base is going to be very difficult to hold off though, especially since there are no units waiting. The entire army of Socke is just too small to be diverted now.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult for him to come back at this point. He's trying to get Templar Archives as well here, but ultimately, Kaz is going to stretch him so thinly with this great drop in the main. That can easily ravage the small force that Socke has sent back to actually deal with it. And he's going to have to deal with a few units down at the third.
Bye-bye third base. No way to save this one. In the main base, his army is dying. These 2 forces for Kaz are enough. Kaz needs to, well, he doesn't even have to lift them here. Another futile attempt for Socke to try to save his third base, but the third is gone. The main base still under attack. Zealot after Zealot is biting the dust, and those probes, they will do the same. GG. Kaz takes the second game, tying things up here in the best of 3.
Very impressive there by Kaz as he brings things back. I was, well, I mean, we were anticipating Socke going for that kind of Colossus mid-game little feel there. He obviously wanted to save the third and wasn't really gearing up from the very get-go for that push. He just felt a little bit behind trying to get himself back into it.
Yeah, a very back and forth game here. Once again, those 2 Protoss players talking to each other, trying to find the mistakes in the last game and trying to come up with a strategy for the next one. And for Socke, this flank attack was really crucial. The force fields were not in the spot. There was a gap, and Kaz abusing it, hunting down the Colossi. For Socke, there was a lot of potential with this move out and this push, but Kaz just a bit too strong, setting up this trap for his opponent. And Socke at this point fell for it. Terran player has to be feeling really good about the last win. And before we go into game number 3, we're giving things back to the analysis desk, back to Jared and his boys. Let's see what QXC and Todd Afterbauer say about the match.
Socke drops only his third game of the entire tournament. Hitman Kaz tying up the series 1-1. We have a series. Mr. Terran Pro, share us, profess your knowledge.
Kaz opened with pretty fast expand. Both players actually going for that fast expand build. And then it was more just the Nexus snipe, I think, was the most important part of this game. Once you kill a Nexus like that, when you cancel it, well, I think it finished and he actually killed it. You put your opponent in a position where if he sits back in macros, he's just down a base. And so Socke was kind of forced into doing some kind of aggression, but Cass was macroing very well behind this attack and was able to have the right units behind it so that counter pressure wasn't as effective as it needed to be.
And GSL Whirlwind, Socke opening with the Nexus first. I feel like this is the key moment in this game. Let's jump into the replay here. And we can see Socke is moving in the middle of the map. He wants to claim that watchtower, but Cass, he had a couple units in position ready to snipe that third Nexus of Socke. And I mean, when that happens, as a Protoss who's just so far behind, you have to make a choice. You have to either try to come back in macro game, remake that Nexus, but you know you're behind, so either you go for quick storm and you try something, or like I said, you go forward and you go for an all-in. And Socke, he chose the aggressive approach here. He had already 2 Colossi. He had a third one just now coming out. He had a couple Stalkers on patrol in his main, and he just really went for it. QXC, do you agree that this was the best choice for Socke, or do you think he should have just remade the Nexus and try to come back this way?
I think I want to watch the battle again because it wasn't clear to me during the game whether Socke lost the battle because of his own mistakes or just because he just didn't have enough.
The army supply here we can see is even, but Socke, he has 3 Zealots here. Oh, I guess we have a couple Marines here. He's warped 1 Stalker here, and those Stalkers that he had in his main, he actually brought with him. So the army supply is very equal, but Socke, he definitely needs some good force fields because he has no mid-shield here, he has no Zealots. And then we see a big chunk of army here coming from behind, which Socke did not expect. He's going to completely miss those 2 force fields.
I actually think, answering your question from earlier, the main reason that Socke loses this battle and goes on to lose the game is because he tries to get too much compensation. So he lost his Nexus. He did kill some of Kaas's army there, probably more than Kaas would have liked, but he didn't kill enough that Socke was able to just aim move into his main and kill him. If Socke had actually gone through the third and possibly even killed that command center there, or at the very least killed what SCVs were there, forced a liftoff, and then gone to the natural, at the very worst, he's on equal grounds with his opponent because they're both on 2 bases. Obviously, he could do better if he can take out the third and continue to do damage, but that's not what he needed to do to be in this game. And instead, what he chose to do was ignore the third altogether and go straight for the main, it's just not as good of a position because Kaas was able to make that flank from both the natural and the third.
I feel like the force fields were a big reason of why he lost this fight and the game with it.
Yep.
If he had force fielded better, then it would have been just a lot better. And he might have won this game. So the Destroyer of Worlds is in this series. He's going to take the second game. This is now 1-1. Jarrett, any thoughts?
Well, no.
No?
I try. My brain is empty.
You told us something about the Nexus Knight.
I did, yeah. But it was
what was
just
that you
Protoss
said?
whining. Nobody wants to hear Protoss
what was it?
whine.
Something
Not
about...
even Protosses like to hear Protosses whine. Actually,
I
Todd
like
loves
to-
it. We
yeah,
whine
I
back and
love
forth
it.
the whole game. This would be a much different dynamic if I was Zerg. This would have proper representation. But instead, we have 2 Protosses teaming up on a Terran.
You know, there's
the
no
whole thing.
Zerg left in the tournament, so
That's true.
I think this is
Well, now it's great.
the representation. Well, they knew it. That's why they invited us. They
Are you
sabotaged the Zergs.
Incredible. Carmack's a pretty brilliant guy. I don't know if he can see the future, but I wouldn't count it out.
I think he is a predicting master.
Could be the case. Well, the next map is Cloud Kingdom. Pretend you're Kaz. Maybe you've trained another few years. What would you do?
Wait, I think I'm like the same age as Kaas.
No, I mean in terms of getting better.
Did you just call me bad?
No, dude, you all killed in the GSL. You're amazing. I wish you had your bandana on. I'm going to say that now. I've been thinking it like the whole week. I missed the bandana. If you brought your bandana, maybe
Would you
I'd
have brought a
worn mine.
bandana too?
Maybe.
I think
Maybe we should double bandana for the finals.
If we find a store in Poland that sells bandanas, or
Or we can give it to the casters.
It's true.
That's talking some sense.
All right. While the players are in the game, the casters are ready. We're ready. Game 3. Let's go.